Hi everybody, my name is Naya and I'm the Black female engineer, and I'm so happy to see you because today I'm going to be talking about the 5 key things I did that allowed me to get overall 3 job offers within a month of graduating coding bootcamp. One of those job offers happening 3 hours after I had graduated, which to this day is just so mind-boggling to me. And so when I look back, there are some very key things I did that may have been different from my peers that really allowed me to have such amazing success so quickly. Number 1, I tailored each of my portfolio projects to something I would be proud talking about during an interview or to an employer or putting on my resume. So in coding bootcamp, along with if you're self-teaching or you're in college or anything like that, you will create projects for your portfolio. You will create apps, whether they be web-based apps or mobile apps or a mix between the two or anything like that. You'll create apps with the hope of including them within your portfolio or for simply practice. Now, what I did is I really looked at what things interest me the most and things I could create that I actually would be like, look what I did, either because of the styling, either because of the features I included within that app. I really made myself think, what is something that would really differentiate myself within that application process? And so what I ended up doing was creating 3 main web apps. One was an ingredient to recipe app called Mince. The second was a budgeting app. And then the third was a social justice app. However, don't just think, okay, what will impress X, Y, and Z company? What will impress or make my resume look all, cool and all that? Think about the things you're actually interested in. So me, I really like to cook. I like making new recipes, meal prepping, all that. And so that's what drove the creation of my first web app. The second, the financial budgeting app, I come from finance and accounting. That is my background. And so knowing that, and then me being in my early 20s, I know that I can, go off the rails when it comes to my spending habits and things like that. And so I created an app tailored to that. And then the third, I'm very passionate about social justice and like to think of ways I can be of help whenever I can. And so created an app to assist in that. So I'm not saying just think about, I think it would be really cool if, like, no. Think about things you're really interested in. So let's say you're really interested in birds. So there's actually a story that was shared with us during Coding Bootcamp where somebody who's really interested in birds, they created kind of a Shazam type app for bird sounds. So you hear the sound of a bird and you could put up your phone and Shazam it. And that would in turn provide you the type of bird that is making that sound. And so, that's so interesting and so cool. And so I'm not saying, think about, the stock market or think about, economic. No, think about things that are interesting to you and create an app that really ties in that interest and build your features and the styling and all those stuff on something that in turn would be impressive to share with others. Number 2, the next thing I did was I started applying to jobs 2 months before I was set to even graduate from the coding bootcamp. So it is very important that you listen to this. Do not apply to your holy grail of a job. Do not apply to your dream job at this time. Don't be applying to, Google, Twitter, all the jazz just yet. Because when you're applying to jobs in this period, again, about 2 months before I graduate coding bootcamp or before you graduate your self-teaching schedule, college, etc., apply to the jobs and positions that you wouldn't really cry yourself to sleep at night for not getting. The goal with this is to really allow for that practice and get in the groove of sending out resumes and in turn interviewing. So because the first jobs you would have applied to are the ones that aren't your dream job, now ideally those are the jobs that would contact you first for an interview. Now you're interviewing with them. Treat it as more of a practice run. So I'm not saying, go in there with your loose shirt and your, popping the hoodie, popping the collar. Like, no, I'm not saying do any of that. What I'm saying, though, is because this isn't a job that you've been dreaming all your life of having, now you can, one, approach the interviews with a bit more ease and with a more relaxed persona, and you get to iron out the kinks that you didn't even know you had. So before going to an interview, yes, you're going to practice questions. Yes, you're going to practice the coding portions of the interviews and the tech challenges and things like that. But when you're in there and when you're talking about your projects and your previous experience and your 5 strengths and weaknesses, you're going to realize certain kinks you have in your story, whether it be that you really don't know your project as well as you thought you did, or you really can't really share with the person on the other side of the table the magnitude of a certain strength or weakness or etc. Because now you're really in that hot seat, now you're getting feedback from that employer that your mama couldn't give you, that your brother, your girlfriend, like they couldn't give you, because 1, they love you, and 2, they're not trained, unless they're HR or some ish, but they're not trained to look out for certain buzzwords or certain body language or things like that. Because they're not trained to do that, it's going to be the interviewer's feedback that's really going to create those moments of, oh wow, I did not realize I even sound like that, or even talk like that, or things like that. That is why I recommend applying to jobs 2 months before your graduation, to allow for that practice. That way, when it is time where you are applying to your Google and your Twitter and your Facebook, when you're applying to those jobs, you are now more relaxed, knowing really what your capabilities are, what your real strengths are in interviews, and what to look out for. So that is tip number 2. Now, tip number 3. Whenever you see a job you're interested in, go on LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn, create one. Please, please, please create one. Look on LinkedIn and see who is employed or has been employed by that same company, and try to get connected with them. When I say try to get connected, I don't mean just, click the request button and then go along your merry day. No, that is not what I mean. What I mean is reach out to them first with a short message blurb attached to that request. So something like,
hi, my name is Naya. I am really interested in this job and this position, and saw that you were recently employed as this, or that is your current role. I would love to speak with you about the insights you have from being involved in this company, your likes, dislikes, etc.
That is how you should connect with them. Include those blurbs, sharing that you're not just looking for, a +1 in your connection list. You're looking for actual true insight and knowledge into the company, into the role, into the position. By doing this, you're a lot more likely to, 1, get that request approved by that person, and 2, now you have a connection in the job you want. Does that make sense? Now, whenever you post something on LinkedIn, whenever you share X, Y, and Z, that person in the role you want, in the company you want, will see it. And what they do with that information, that is up to them. I don't know. But that is putting you so much closer to that end goal of getting employed than not doing that. And that actually brings us to tip 4. Whenever you complete a project, build a new web app, create an article about something you've learned, post it on LinkedIn. Please post it, because now with this new connection list of people who actually are in the roles and positions of jobs you want to be in, now when you share, hey, I just did X, Y, and Z project, I just created this app, they not only see that, okay, you're actually dedicated to this career switch, but they have the power to say to XY recruiter or XY manager, like, oh, did this person apply? Yeah, I actually saw that they did X, Y, and Z. I think, I'm really interested in them. I think you should be too, and see where that takes you. And not only that, a lot of times I've been in situations where the person I have reached out to actually ends up being my interviewer or part of the interview process, because it's not just the HR team that's doing interviews. It's the recruiter and HR team, but it's also members of the direct teams you would be working on, because it's not only important that the HR, it's not only, and I did it again. Okay, it's not only important that the HR and recruiting team likes you, but it's important for your potential manager, for your potential coworkers to like you too. Because at the end of the day, once that HR hires you, in some companies, like, it's wraps, it's deuce, like, they're out. But it's the managers and the coworkers that are stuck with you. So, I'm sure you're a very lovely person. You're a great team member. So don't put any negative connotation around that. But please, after you gain those LinkedIn connections, then really start uploading your progress and your projects and the apps. And honestly, bonus points if you can actually also upload a walkthrough video of you using your apps on LinkedIn as well. Because a lot of times if you say, oh, just go here and you'll see my app, or if the app isn't available for the public, and you just say, oh, I created this and then period, then it's like, well, okay, like, I guess I'll take your word for it. But it's really nice getting to actually see what that walkthrough is like. So upload a walkthrough video with it as well. And y'all, tip number 5. I really think this is really, really, really what allowed me to get the jobs I did in the time I did. And that is, think about your competitive advantage when it comes to the job process and lean into that. So, what do I mean by this? When I started learning how to code, that was in June of 2020. I had just graduated from college with a degree in accounting finance, but I had just graduated from college in May of 2020, so just 1 month before. Now, when it comes to college recruiting, that a lot of times is a whole different process than recruiting as a full-on professional who's been doing this for 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, etc. When you're recruiting out of college, there are portals that you have access to that other people don't, because companies are posting jobs solely wanting to graduate either a college graduate or someone who is about to graduate college. So I say all of this because I had already graduated college. However, I still had access to these portals and to the jobs that were looking for college graduates and people who are about to graduate college. Actually, the job I ended up signing on was a job that were looking for current college students, which I no longer was. But because I was in that 1 year threshold, I still qualified and I ended up getting that type of role. So my competitive advantage was the fact that I had just graduated from college and had access to these portals. Now, my peers did not have access to these portals. When you graduate coding bootcamp, now the jobs you are looking at are the same jobs that your peers are looking at. Do you see where I'm going with this? They're the same jobs your peers are looking at. And they may end up being the same jobs your peers are applying to. And when you're being interviewed, you may be interviewed at 2 o'clock, and then your peers being interviewed at 2:30. So it is so essential to think about spaces you occupy that your peers don't. So I don't want you to say like, okay, wait, but I'm 35 years old and I, graduated 15 years, like I don't, there's nothing for me there. No. So you are transitioning into software engineering. That's amazing. 1, congrats. 2, where are you transitioning from? For me, that was accounting and finance. I would recommend looking at accounting and financial firms and seeing what tech-related jobs they are posting. So, okay, you worked at Bank of America. Look to see if Bank of America is posting roles for software engineers. You are now a software engineer or about to be a software engineer, and you have all this experience and education related to the financial field. Now, can all your other classmates say the same? Likely not. So think about that. Think about where your background is in and really steer into that during your job hunt process. Now, okay, let's say you haven't had a job and you're a working professional, so you're not just graduating from college, etc. Now what do you do? If you remember, I talked about the app the person who was really interested in birds built. That in itself could be a competitive advantage. So you're really into birds. Now you have created 3 portfolio projects to really aid the bird community, to really set yourself apart because of your bird passion and things like that. Apply to roles that would really appreciate that. Now, I don't know jack squat about birds, so I really can't think of a company. Maybe like the National Wildlife Preserve or the National Association of Bird Watching or like things like that. Think about roles and companies that would appreciate this passion of yours and apply to those. Because while other people may be applying out of just, generic job hunt looking stuff, you're applying because you have this deep passion that's been proven because of your portfolio projects and things like that. And so again, this comes down to thinking about your competitive advantage and what sets you apart from Beth, Kathy, Tom, Chad, all of them over here. Where is a space that you can occupy that none of them can? Now, just a little asterisk over here. Don't only apply to those roles. I'm not saying just toss those other positions into the trash and don't even bother with those. I'm not saying that. Still apply to the roles that you see pop up on LinkedIn, the ones that you see pop up on, Google when you search software engineering roles near me and things like that. Still apply to those. I did, but focus less on those. And I'd say focus at least 60% to the jobs that are more your competitive advantage type of jobs. Because even though I still applied to jobs that were popping up on LinkedIn, popping up on Google, I applied to a total of, I want to say, upwards 60 jobs in my job hunt process. But do you want to know which jobs I got interviewed for? 85% were the jobs that were in my niche. So think about that. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'll be talking next about the resume that got me my dream job. please let me know your thoughts on this video, the tips, and really any other questions that you'd really like me to go into my next videos. Because at the end of the day, this is for you. So I want to make sure I'm being useful. So thank you so much for watching this and getting through this with me. And I look forward to seeing you soon.